For years, Ellen DeGeneres was the undisputed queen of daytime television, winning hearts with her contagious laughter, feel-good surprises, and signature be kind message. But in the world of entertainment, what glitters isn't always gold. Behind that megawatt smile and lively dance moves, there may be a much darker reality. Recently, two powerful media figures, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, have taken it upon themselves to peel back the layers of Ellen's public persona. In a rare crossover of podcast clout and hard-nosed journalism, they've joined forces to investigate what really goes on behind the curtain. Their revelations are more than celebrity gossip. They shine a spotlight on an entire culture that rewards image over integrity. Today, we're diving deep into how Rogan and Kelly exposed Ellen's hidden truths and what this means for the future of celebrity worship. Buckle up. The truth behind the curtain is messier than anyone expected.
The Ellen situation.
Yeah.
You know, people found out that Ellen was mean, and all these people came out and said, Ellen's actually a bitch. And then we're like, whoa,
yeah.
I can't believe it. And she lost everything. She fell apart, disappeared, because people found out that this character that she was portraying in a half an hour on a television show is not really who she was. My buddy Greg, who was one of her writers, was like, she's a piece of shit. And he was like, she's a monster.
For years, Ellen built a brand on kindness. But as stories from former staffers and insiders surfaced, that image started to fall apart. According to these sources, Ellen was anything but kind behind the scenes. Staff weren't even allowed to make eye contact with her in the halls. One writer bluntly called her a monster. These weren't isolated complaints. They came in waves, forming a pattern of alleged toxic workplace behavior. The disconnect between Ellen's public and private selves became too glaring to ignore. Fans who had once celebrated her generosity and humor now questioned how much of it was real. This wasn't just a fall from grace, it was a full-blown brand collapse. Her empire, once built on joy, began to look more like a carefully manufactured illusion. And for many, the real betrayal wasn't just her behavior, it was how long the world bought into the facade.
All these staffers started to come out, not for nothing, but I know a guy, I know him very well, whose sister worked for her, who said you were not allowed to make eye contact with Ellen in the halls of that show. If you saw her, this is not a nice person.
Joe Rogan approached the Ellen controversy with the kind of straight-shooting skepticism his audience expects. He didn't need to exaggerate. Just laying out the facts was enough. Rogan questioned how someone universally praised for being nice could inspire such dread among her own staff. His radar for inconsistencies went off, and he voiced what many were afraid to say. Ellen's niceness felt forced. He likened the behind-the-scenes culture to something out of a war zone, comparing it to Guantanamo Bay even. That wasn't just comedic exaggeration, it was a metaphor for how tense and fear-driven the environment allegedly was. Rogan's criticism wasn't about tearing someone down, it was about holding public figures accountable when their public image doesn't align with their real behavior. His analysis exposed not just one celebrity, but the way fame often masks dysfunction. And that struck a nerve with a public tired of curated personas.
Like a lot of people saying that someone who seems so nice is not nice at all.
She doesn't seem nice, but that people have a very poor judge of character. She doesn't seem nice. It seems forced. People that are like that all the time, she doesn't seem nice. It's very forced. And whatever, you're allowed to be right? You're allowed to be nasty to people. You're accomplished. You're a comedian. You did the whole thing. What you're not allowed to do is have a Guantanamo Bay situation in the backstage of your show where everybody's walking around afraid for their life, and it's like Abu Ghraib where they're hooked up to wires and they have like.
While Rogan delivered cultural commentary, Megyn Kelly went full investigative journalist. She dove deep into legal filings, staff complaints, and media inconsistencies. Her goal wasn't to attack Ellen personally, it was to question how someone with so many red flags was protected by the press for so long. Kelly pointed to the lawsuits and high staff turnover, criticizing media outlets for ignoring the stories to preserve Ellen's brand. She called out the hypocrisy of a be kind mantra used to shield a toxic work culture. In Kelly's view, Ellen's success came not just from talent, but from strategic branding and institutional protection. Her scrutiny was laser-focused, not on Ellen's dancing or interviews, but on the machine that kept her untouchable for so long. Her message was clear. Kindness isn't about image, it's about actions. And when those two don't match, the public deserves to know.
Because I'm seeing this week that there is an attempted comeback by somebody who did not cross one of those fateful lines of the misstepping on their sacred cows of gender or race or sexuality.
Yeah.
But she was said to be a nasty biatch, and that's Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
So her show got canceled after she had this testy exchange with Dakota Johnson, where something happened where Dakota said, "Oh, I had this birthday party," and Ellen said, "Well, why didn't you invite me? You didn't invite me." And she said, like, "No, I did invite you, Ellen. That's not what happened." And Ellen had blown her off.
Yeah.
And then tried to play the victim on the set with her. Anyway, it led to article after article of people being like, Ellen's a bitch. Ellen is a nasty person.
Sometimes all it takes is a moment to ignite a firestorm. For Ellen, that moment came during a seemingly harmless interview with Dakota Johnson. Ellen joked that she wasn't invited to Johnson's birthday party. Dakota's calm but firm correction, "Actually, that's not true," revealed that Ellen had blown off the invite. This awkward exchange went viral, and it did something major. It gave fans a peek behind the curtain. People began questioning how often Ellen played the victim and manipulated narratives. Media outlets pounced, digging up old stories of her behind-the-scenes behavior. It was the match that lit the powder keg. For many, Dakota's unflinching honesty symbolized a broader truth, that Ellen's on-screen charm might just be an act. In a culture that rewards authenticity, Ellen's moment of exposure was particularly damaging, setting off a chain reaction that her brand never fully recovered from.
That first started to come out, not for nothing, but I know a guy, I know him very well, whose sister worked for her, who said, you were not allowed to make eye contact with Ellen in the halls of that show. If you saw her, this is not a nice person. So she eventually got canceled, but now she's coming back. She's got a Netflix special. That's the right response.
Yeah.
She's got a Netflix special. And here's the capper. On the promo, and apparently there's now articles out about from people who have seen the preview, she plays the victim.
The wave of allegations about the toxic environment on Ellen's show didn't come from one or two disgruntled employees. They came from many. Writers, producers, and interns alike painted a picture of fear and intimidation behind the laughter. Some described the experience as emotionally exhausting, others as outright abusive. There were claims of racism, favoritism, and punishment for speaking out. One former staffer said the atmosphere was so tense, it felt like walking on eggshells every day. Ellen's leadership, or lack thereof, was called into question, especially since she had positioned herself as a beacon of kindness. For an industry already under scrutiny for toxic power dynamics, these revelations felt like déjà vu. Audiences began to wonder how many other public figures hide behind their brand. Ellen's alleged behavior became a case study in how unchecked power can fester, even under a smiling, dancing, nice persona.
Look at it.
Oh, well, you know where that is too, right? It's a similar image to that, right?
No.
I know Jamie does.
What is it?
It's on the set of a famous talk show that's now not on anymore.
Oh, Ellen? Was that Ellen?
Yeah.
After disappearing from the spotlight, Ellen reemerged with a new Netflix special. But instead of a heartfelt apology or self-reflection, she doubled down. The tone? Woe is me. She claimed she was unfairly run out of Hollywood, despite reports of her earning millions and living in luxury. This tone deafness didn't sit well with critics or fans. Rogan and Megyn Kelly both criticized this narrative, arguing that being wealthy, famous, and platformed hardly qualifies as being canceled. They questioned why she was allowed to present herself as a victim when her actions had negatively affected so many. Rather than addressing the workplace allegations head-on, Ellen framed her downfall as a misunderstanding. For many, this felt like a PR stunt, not a redemption arc. And as a result, her comeback was met with eye rolls, not applause.
For me, and she actually has the nerve to say that she was run out of Hollywood. This person
with
and
she with $100 million in her pocket.
$450 million according to Forbes. That's a low estimate.
Yeah.
Because so now she's out there saying, I was run out of Hollywood. She's actually reportedly complaining about how hard it is for women in America with the double standards.
Look at Oprah, how hard it is for her.
Oh, she's got, like 10 houses, Ellen DeGeneres?
Michelle Obama, look how hard it is for women in America. They're hurting.
They're going to let her back in, Rob, because she's a lesbian, she's a leftist, and she didn't hit one of their...
Rogan and Kelly's deeper argument wasn't just about Ellen. It was about a system that sells image as truth. In their view, Ellen represented a growing trend of celebrities turning personality traits into brands. especially kindness. This brand kindness is more about optics than authenticity, designed to disarm criticism and build trust. But when the reality doesn't match the brand, the fallout is even worse. The more polished the image, the greater the betrayal when it cracks. Ellen wasn't just a celebrity, she was a cultural symbol of goodness. And when that symbol fell apart, it felt personal for fans. Rogan and Kelly warned that other celebrities might be hiding similar contradictions. Their message was clear: kindness can't be a costume. And in an age of media transparency, audiences are starting to demand realness over rehearsed perfection.
Nastiness, that's their bread and butter.
Well, I think everyone, I will say, like, the resentment, I think everyone should have a chance for reconciliation. I don't think Jesus exempted anybody. And so I do, while it does, because I have been allowed back in, but I don't hold any grievance and resentment. It's very important. And I would just say for Ellen, the resentment, you have to get over resentment to whatever addiction or addictive qualities happen.
One of the stranger elements Rogan and his guests pointed out was Ellen's interview with Jesus Campos, the guard who encountered Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock. Instead of a heartfelt, empathetic conversation, Ellen used diagrams and walked through timelines like a courtroom prosecutor. The tone was awkward, even unsettling for a daytime show. This interview stood out because it showcased Ellen in a very different light: calculating, unemotional, and oddly mechanical. For skeptics like Rogan, this moment raised red flags. Why did she get that exclusive? And why did it feel more like damage control than a human connection? It wasn't just about one interview, it was about how off-brand Ellen looked when faced with unscripted trauma. It made people question whether her usual empathy was genuine, or just another tool in the Ellen Show machine.
Been around,
That's right, she was buddies with Bush. That was like
she's
one of the
a
first
CIA agent. Stephen Paddock. And do not ask me for sources, but Stephen Paddock.
Who's that?
He was the guy that shot up the Vegas concert. That was a very tragic thing. Listen to this. The only guy that saw Stephen Paddock alive, his name is Jesus Campos. He was a guard at Mandalay Bay. He got interviewed nowhere else. You know where he got interviewed in the beginning?
Ellen.
Really? Weird. And then they went on, if you could find that clip, they went on with a weird, like, diagram of how it happened, and Ellen's, like, showing the people how it happened. Not like an emotional, like, how are you feeling, how are you holding up? It was a weird diagram of, like, and then he went to the left and to the right. It was very strange to, look, what the hell's going on?
Megyn Kelly took aim at the media's role in protecting Ellen. For years, stories about her behavior were allegedly swept under the rug. Kelly argued that the press gave Ellen a pass because she ticked off the right boxes. She was a liberal icon, an LGBTQ+ trailblazer, and beloved by Hollywood. But those same credentials became a shield against scrutiny. In Kelly's view, this selective accountability showed how deeply biased and flawed the media landscape had become. Instead of investigating legitimate concerns, outlets focused on protecting the image. By the time the truth came out, the damage had already been done to Ellen's employees, to the public's trust, and to the media's credibility. Kelly wasn't just calling out Ellen, she was calling out the system that allowed it all to happen.
Tell you
Uniform,
something.
yeah.
Like, that's an odd look with all those buttons. Like, why do you have so many wrist buttons?
It was given to her in Langley.
The only reason why you have that many wrist buttons if you're looking to clothesline somebody.
Yeah, look at her. Look at her.
Neck.
Everyone says she looks so friendly. She looks friendly.
She does look very military.
Yeah, she's a militant woman.
With a very expensive watch,
She
too.
dealt with a lot of discrimination when she came out. It was very sad, but then she joined the CIA.
Her house got broken into while she was at home.
Really?
Yeah. She got a dope place in Montecito.
And they broke in while she was there.
Yeah.
And those people are still being tortured to this day.
Probably.
They're still in an underground jail.
In the end, Rogan and Kelly weren't just talking about Ellen, they were sounding an alarm. This saga isn't about one celebrity's fall from grace. It's a reflection of our relationship with fame itself. We idolize personalities, buy into PR-driven stories, and rarely question the curated images we're fed. But the Ellen case showed how easily those facades can crumble. Rogan and Kelly's takedown served as a cultural reset, reminding audiences to look beyond the branding and ask tougher questions. Who are we really celebrating? What values do they represent? And are they practicing what they preach? Ellen's story may fade from headlines, but its impact will linger, because once you see behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. And maybe that's a good thing. The Ellen DeGeneres controversy isn't just a tabloid headline, it's a turning point. With voices like Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly leading the charge, we're seeing a shift in how audiences consume celebrity culture. People want truth, not just theatrics. Authenticity is no longer optional, it's essential. Ellen's downfall serves as a cautionary tale for anyone building a brand on image alone. When the camera stops rolling, who you are matters more than what you portray. And if that real version doesn't match the marketed one, the public will find out, especially in today's hyper-connected, content-hungry world. So, the next time someone in Hollywood beams "be kind" through the screen, it's worth asking, is it a message or just marketing? Because the audience is no longer clapping on command. They're watching, they're questioning, and they're ready for the truth.